Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and I ate a Snickers before we started recording.
Oh, I love Snickers.
I'm full of energy. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all my goblins and ghouls. Hopefully you're having a spooktacular Monday, and don't forget to creep in it real.
Creeping it real. All right, yeah, good one.
Thank you.
For any of our new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, it looks like we have some new shout-outs to make.
Yes, we have 3 new patrons. Ghost in the Closet, Jay's Pancakes, and Ashlyn S. Thank you so much for your support.
We appreciate you guys. Well, Voyse. What tea have you brewed for us this morning?
I brewed for you a delicious tea. It has green tea, some dried pineapples, elderberries, mango, and beetroot.
It smells crazy.
Try to make it sweet.
Whoa. That's a 5 out of 5 easily.
Yes.
I can really taste was it pineapple?
Yeah. That's the majority of the fruit that I put in it.
That's fantastic.
Well, while you enjoy your morning cup of brew, let's go ahead and delve right into these stories. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I wrong for telling my wife that I don't want to get a vasectomy? So my wife, 30 female, and I, 32 male, have been married for 6 years and have 3 young kids together with no current intent to have more. We live in a chronic dead bedroom and have sex maybe 2 to 3 times a year max. I have higher libido. Otherwise, we have an overall good marriage and make a good team. Despite our nearly non-existent sex life, my wife takes a birth control pill, not for any reason besides contraception. Recently, after investigating some concerns with her health, her OBGYN advised she come off of that particular birth control. The only issue with this is that my wife has historically had issues with birth control. So coming off of this one means that she has to go through a test period with possibly multiple different ones to find the one that doesn't have a lot of negative side effects. So anyways, we were talking about her appointment and I recommended that she just come off the birth control indefinitely and not to have to worry about the trial period of starting a new one. She seemed ecstatic about the suggestion and followed up with asking if I'd be willing to get a vasectomy. Mind you, we've talked about this before and I do plan on getting snipped, but I'd always imagined doing it a little later in the future, like when I'm 35, just to be sure that we were done having kids for sure. She knew this and never had an issue with it. So anyways, I responded back with, "Oh yeah, I'm planning on it." She said, "Soon, right?" To which I, very confused, said, no. And she said, "Oh, okay, I'll just go back on birth control." So I said, "Wait, what?" I said, "Yes. Do you want me to schedule the procedure ASAP?" And she was like, "No, it's fine. I'll just test out a bunch of birth controls and fuck around with my hormones for the next few months." So then I said, "Okay, this is getting dramatic. I will do some research and call a doctor next week, but I don't understand the rush." She just said, "That's fine. I don't ever expect you to understand where I'm coming from as a woman." I was too puzzled to respond, so things just went quiet. After about 10 minutes of silence, I said out of frustration, "I'm honestly not sure why either of us need to be worried about contraception. When's the last time we even had sex?" Petty, I know. As expected, that sparked a pretty big argument per usual, and the argument ultimately ended in me saying that she doesn't need birth control and I don't need to get a vasectomy anytime soon. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not proud of my pettiness or how I handled that situation, and I truthfully don't have an issue with getting the procedure, but I genuinely don't see the rational, urgent need given our circumstances. Am I wrong? P.S. Divorce/separation is not an option nor relevant to what I'm asking. Please don't suggest it.
The great snip snip story.
Yeah. I figured I'd start us with a bit of a conversation.
That's definitely a conversation. So we'll get into the question he asks, because I look at this story in 2 halves. The first is he's asking if he's an a-hole for not wanting a vasectomy. I do not believe that you are an a-hole for not wanting a vasectomy. That's, if you don't want it, you don't want it.
Understandable. It's your body.
So for the other half, he kind of outlines the reasonings as to why he doesn't want to get right away. But they don't make sense to me. They're 32, I think, is their ages?
He's 32. She's 30.
They've got 3 kids. And he's telling me, well, in the writing anyway, there's no more plans to have any more children. And he wants to hold off till 35. So that's another 3 years that his wife would be potentially still taking birth control. And I am a mere man, but I've been around a little bit and I've seen the effects of birth control on women. It's terrible. And the longer you're on it, the worse it gets. I truly believe we've had a lot of problems health-wise because of those type of things. And they're giving it to people younger and younger now.
That's very true.
You know, he's saying that his wife doesn't really have a libido, which is why they're not having sex as much. I mean, I think he says it's 3 times a year.
Yeah, that's rough.
Oh boy. The birth control might be some of the cause for that. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe it is just because she doesn't want to have sex all that often. There are couples like that, but maybe also the birth control might be having a bigger influence than you know. So when our OP's wife asks him if he'd be okay with getting a vasectomy, he tells her yes. And of course, she gets hyped up. Like I think most people would in that situation, especially when you've been taking it for however long she's been taking it. You don't have to go on the emotional roller coaster it puts you through.
And then on top of that, things like bloating or excessive weight gain, nausea, headaches. The list goes on and on with all the side effects that you can have. And that's just to name a few for women.
Skin problems. It's not something that as a man, I would never put myself on that just because of all the harm I think it does to the human body. Like, I can't tell you how happy I was when we got Voyse off of those things so many years ago.
Best decision ever.
And that's why I can see from OP's wife's point of view how much she got let down in that moment. What you're telling me makes sense, but then you're having her wait 3 more years to do what you could do today.
And that can apparently fix a lot of intimacy issues that they have.
And you could definitely smell the passive aggressiveness from both ends.
Oh, yes.
I mean, she says it. You're clearly not going to understand it from my perspective. Well, hopefully he does. Hopefully our OP took the advice he probably got from the commenters, because I'm shocked he wouldn't see how much an impact that's had on his wife. I was very aware of all of those problems and changes in Voyse when we were younger, and she first got on birth control and had to go through a couple to find the one that worked for her.
And it has caused a lot of implications on my life even after that.
So, yeah, I guess you are and you aren't the a-hole, in my opinion.
Well, now this is from a different thread than our AITA, but I love the topic so much, I had to actually bring it in so that we could go ahead and talk about it, because I definitely side with you. He's not the a-hole for not wanting to get a vasectomy. Anything that has to do with your body should be your choice. But when it comes to how commenters spoke regarding this to our OP, it's really a low blow that you would hit your wife with saying that she has no sex drive at all, that between him and her, he's the one that's had to essentially take the hit, even though she's been having to take the hit when it comes to side effects of birth control to make sure that they're making responsible choices. Now, more commenters came out, and one actually said, look, getting a vasectomy was the thing that essentially helped my marriage, because once my wife was off the birth control, we were able to become intimate. She started having a drive. And there's a lot of individuals that came out saying, yes, birth control impacts your drive to even want to do that, to even think about it. It is so integral that a lot of commenters actually said they're just thinking of getting off of it completely because there's so many complications and side effects. They really did, I hope, provided him with a good perspective on you don't need to have something done on your body that you don't want. But to go ahead and give excuses and essentially almost shit on your wife when it comes to something that is really out of her control is kind of a low blow. There were some women that actually said, go and get your tubes tied, girl. It's the best choice that a lot of them have made, just to go ahead and not deal with it.
Well, they've had all their kids already. They said they're not planning on it anymore. So yeah, I can definitely see where do what's best for your health.
Well, let's go ahead and head into our next one, and let's see if we can just get this off our chest. For our next story, am I the a-hole for blowing off a woman who tried to vent after rejecting me? So, some context. I'm a dateless 40-year-old virgin. It has caused so much grief and frustration, as you can imagine. I'm not ugly, although I was obese for most of my life, going into morbidly obese when I was in college, and literally eating pounds of food in depression after dealing with the 300th or so rejection. Over the last few years, I lost a lot of weight, hundreds of pounds, and put on muscle by going to the gym and getting serious about my health. I need to make this exceedingly clear. I didn't do this for anyone but myself. Women aren't nearly as horrible with rejection compared to my younger days, but a no is still a no, and I'm honestly surprised at how I can experience new ways to be hurt by rejection. Anyways, last year, I met a woman at the gym who saw my progress and decided to approach and compliment me on my transformation. This led to us having frequent interactions in the gym that spilled into text conversations, and I began to realize I might be in love with this woman. At the very least, I strongly preferred her company and wanted to know her better. At this point, I'll reiterate my dateless status, which made me hesitant to try to escalate things. I am, unfortunately, experienced with having a lady friend not reciprocate feelings and friendships sort of fizzle out. But this time I thought it would be different. This woman told me on several occasions how lonely she is and how she wishes some man would ask her out, so I did. And she rejected me. Said she appreciated it, but going through a lot in life and had no time. Okay, we were still talking at least, and I enjoyed that. Then she got a boyfriend a couple weeks later. I guess she got her life in order. We didn't hang out in the gym anymore for obvious reasons. We stopped talking altogether, and then she and her boyfriend just stopped showing up to the gym. It sucked, but that's life, I guess. I just moved on. Well, fast forward to the summertime, and I see her again out in the world. She looked different, worn down, not keeping up with her training. She was happy to see me and even happier to unload her baggage on me. Apparently, the guy she was with treats her bad, degrades her, gives her a hard time, cheats on her. Ugh. I couldn't, not this time. I interrupted her and told her I'm not interested and went on my way. I haven't seen her since, and while I haven't blocked her via text, I haven't reached out either. Honestly, I felt insulted, and after a lifetime of 100% rejection rate, I am beyond tired of a woman telling me their problems when I'm not in a relationship with them. And that brings me to the question at hand if I am the a-hole. Enough time has passed where I'm starting to think I should probably reach out and maybe apologize and see if she is okay, whatever that is worth. Or I could let the passage of time play out and just eventually forget this matter altogether. Edit. This story is real. If you think otherwise, leave, I guess. Edit 2. Don't tell me to get therapy. Therapy is a wonderful solution for understanding thoughts and challenging ideas in your head. Therapy is not a counsel on how to date or attract a spouse. Am I the a-hole?
Can we just start with the very last thing he says? And it's about therapy. You're very wrong. Therapy has everything to do with how you see yourself and how you treat other people in your life. And it kind of shows how you think about everything. He outlines it. He's a 40-year-old virgin. And it sounds like he grew up getting rejected a lot. He says it was because he was overweight for most of it. Good for him for getting older and realizing he needed to take his health seriously and learning how to do it.
Kudos.
I gotta say, though, in my opinion, there are plenty of people who are overweight throughout their lives that do just fine getting partners. I hope for our OP that he realizes that it probably had little to do with his weight and more to do with his personality and who he is. And I think that's probably why you've had a really hard time, because you can fix all you want to on the outside. But if you don't fix what's on the inside, you're going to get what just happened to you. At the end of the day, what I'll say about this is you're not an a-hole for not wanting to deal with someone else's emotional baggage. I can get behind that. But the way you look at life and relationships is wrong.
Well, The consensus was not the a-hole. You don't need to deal with someone else's emotional baggage. You're absolutely right, Timstradamus. I think where everything started going off the rails when it came to this post was how our poster decided to interact with individuals explaining their experiences. Personally, I dislike generalizing. I think it's very disrespectful and rude because everybody's experiences are very different. Truly dating someone is really about dating that person. And yes, there might be some physical attributes that you'd like to tick off the box, but I have to side with some commenters here and say, where are your expectations in a partner? Because if all you're trying to go for are women who look like they're on magazines and you're striking out, have you really opened the door to having a relationship with women out there in general?
Are we saying that his standards might have been set too high from the get-go?
That's where a lot of Redditors were implying. And I have to wonder about that. Because you go 40 years without having a singular date, I can only strive it to be two things. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman regarding this. One, you have a really bad personality. And while some people might enjoy you as a friend, they can't ever imagine having you as a partner. And two, your standards are way too high. You want what's in, as I see a lot of women, what's in a fairy tale. You want that Prince Charming. And for me, the Prince Charming is who you make it to be. It's not how it's described in a book. And for a lot of men, it tends to be a woman who's a cover model. And those expectations, I think, are just as skewed as a woman's expectations. But then it comes to beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I'm only going to go ahead and say this simply because of how our poster wrote in the comments section, which, by the way, got extremely rude for my liking. I don't agree with anybody going through and telling other people that they are liars and that they are stupid for their opinions. I think that's absolutely rude for our poster to do because he didn't agree with what people were saying. You opened up having this discussion and then you absolutely hate some of the truths that you're being hit with. And rather than that's just the way that person's going to view the world, it is you're going to go ahead and you're going to put them in their place because that's how you feel like you had to deal with things. And I think that's a cruel way to look at things. I can't imagine being an individual who could go through and tell another person that what they think, how they feel, and their experiences are invalid. And that's essentially what our poster was doing and was accusing everyone that that's what society did to them. That's what society does to everybody. But when you're combating every woman out there because you can only see it from just your side, I think that's where you're wrong. And if anything, I got very upset personally because he went to another forum to essentially say all of these guys in the AITA forum, essentially he's clowning on them. He's calling them normies because apparently nobody that's in this one can understand it from his viewpoint. But it's not that. It's that he's not actually putting into consideration that there's more than one here.
I guess at the end of the day, to a hammer, everything will always look like a nail.
I think it's rough. As I said, I completely side with you don't need to deal with the emotional problems that other people have, especially when they're venting out to you. You're not someone's personal therapist, personal psychologist, trying to help them through whatever problems that they are. Friends will sometimes do that, yes. Sometimes we'll be the confidant to go ahead and hopefully provide some advice or outside perspective if that is what that type of relationship is.
Sure, but you also have to understand too, when you do that on a constant basis, that does have an impact on the other person taking your baggage. So you have to learn as a person when you're doing those things to other people, they're not therapists like you said. You've got to go get the help you need when you're in those type of situations because yes, always giving someone your baggage isn't good for you and it isn't good for your friend or family member that's happening to. You can see it here where I'm certain that he had to play that role for a lot of people and look what it's done to him. It's created someone very bitter and cynical.
Yeah, actually, that's a good way to describe ROP. Well, let's go ahead and leave this situation behind and see about our hobbies. For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling my wife I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that I can babysit? My wife, Jane, 34 female, and I, 38 male, have been together for 5 years. She also brought my stepdaughter, Emily, 9 female, into our marriage. We have her for 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, while she's at her dad's, Friday through Sunday. From the beginning, Jane told me Emily doesn't need a second father figure, as she has her dad to fill that role. I was only supposed to be a trusted authority figure in case she ever needed anything. I didn't mind, and try my best to respect that boundary. She's a sweet child anyway, and doesn't cause trouble, so it's not like I have to discipline her. Her father is also a good dad. Emily's dad recently got married, and his wife has 2 kids of her own who are at their place Wednesday to Saturday, and at their dad's Sunday to Tuesday. Emily and her new step-siblings don't get along at all. They're always fighting, and it's pretty toxic. Emily's dad asked Jane if they could change their custody schedule to match his stepkids to keep the children apart. It's not a big deal in and of itself, because we don't live that far from each other, so picking and dropping is no issue, and she can easily be dropped off to school no matter where she stays. The issue is my wife agreed to it without consulting me. Jane is currently doing a certification course for the next 12 months, and they have classes on Saturdays from 9 to 5 p.m. She asked me if I can babysit Emily on Saturdays, but I can't because I play golf with my brother and sister on Saturday mornings from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This has been our tradition from before Jane and Emily came into my life, and I had told Jane from much before that this is important to me and my siblings. She asked if I can move to another day, but that's not possible either because my siblings also have jobs and families of their own, so Saturday was the best day for us. I told her she can hire a babysitter, but she doesn't want to spend money when I can do it for free. I told her that wouldn't work for me. She then got mad and said golf is stupid and I should put my stepdaughter over my siblings. That pissed me off, so I told her I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that she can have a free babysitter. For the record, I don't have anything against Emily. I've babysat her before and she's a good kid. If there was a family emergency or if it was an occasional occurrence, then yeah, I would cancel golf for that day and take care of her. But I can't give up something this important to me for 12 months continuous. She called me a selfish a-hole and slept on the couch last night. So am I the a-hole?
So let's unravel this story, because it is interesting to me the way ROP says his wife quantifies his relationship with his stepdaughter. Right from the start, he tells us that his wife tells him he is not a father figure in this girl's life.
Which is very interesting. Just an authority figure.
Yes. Now, it is what it is. You're allowed to have the relationships you cultivate and maintain in your life.
And he was very respectful.
And he was. Now, the real issue I have here is, it sounds like these are very blended families on all sides. He says that they've worked out a decent plan that has everyone where they need to be, and they're splitting time with every parent involved. Now, unfortunately, something changes for his stepdaughter's life because her dad got married and they're trying to adjust the schedule because apparently the kids don't mesh well. So they're trying to work out a new schedule. But his wife doesn't talk to him about what it is that they're agreeing upon. That's the biggest issue in the story to me. He says that he already has plans to do family activities. I think it's golf. Regardless of what it was, though, he's already been doing this every Saturday for a very long time. I think he says it before he even met his wife. This was a tradition that he had held with his siblings.
Correct.
And she didn't bother to at least talk about it with him first? I mean, you will owe your partner that you've been with for 5 years at least that. My question would be, because maybe that was out of her hands. Maybe this is just how it had to work out, that they had to have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Is money an issue? That they couldn't afford a babysitter on a Saturday for a couple hours?
Oh, what a good question. And
Detective.
Detective Timstradamus at work.
On the job. I'm taking a break.
Well, our OP actually puts, there's no financial struggles. His wife is a bit of a miser.
Okay. So, well, then it explains it. that could have been an easy way to have bridged the gap there. He doesn't have to give it up, and they can afford to pay for a babysitter every, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. There are other ways around it, but it needed to start with your wife talking to you and you guys coming to something that worked for everyone first. That's the issue of the story. So in my opinion, you're not the a-hole.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, let me go ahead and give you a little update from our poster.
Ooh.
They said, I want to say thank you to everyone for your kind words and voices of support. Emily deserves to feel cared for and not like a hot potato who no one wants. I spoke to my brother and his wife, and they have offered to let Emily stay at their home on Saturday morning with their other children so that we can golf. My wife has also agreed, albeit reluctantly, to this arrangement. I have also told her that this arrangement isn't tenable anymore. If she expects me to have parental responsibilities toward Emily, then she needs to treat me like another parent of her daughter. We are going to family counseling to see how we can make this work.
Fantastic news.
Well, at least when it comes to our Redditors' viewpoints, it actually enabled him to start these conversations with his wife so it doesn't get worse.
What a fantastic win for everyone.
I agree. It was one of the stories that really made me smile.
It's good.
Well, let's go to our very last story, and let's see if I can end this with a bang.
Oh, these already have been really good, though.
I know. I did Monday really good justice here.
She had a really big smile before she sat down, and it had me scared.
Just a little. All right, for our last story. Am I the a-hole for telling coworker that his wife isn't that pretty? I, 25 female, have been at my workplace for almost 2 years now and get along well with most of my colleagues. We regularly go out on every other weekends and have activities which most of our colleagues join into, including my colleague Max, 33 male. Max is a very outgoing guy, extroverted, and has been at my workplace for the longest, 6 years, as the turnover here is quite fast. I get along well with him and would consider him my best friend at work. We share banter and have a good laugh and have similar extroverted personalities. Max regularly attends the work activities and is the life of the party and workplace. His wife of 10 years used to come to the activities sometimes before I joined the workplace, but no longer does since the baby a while back. What really annoys is how Max always puts his wife on a pedestal. He's always going on about how she is the best cook, has the best looks / figure he's ever seen. A simple conversation between colleagues regarding which celebrity we fancy would be, nah man, no one beats my wife in terms of looks. Who is the best looking in the workplace? Nah, no one here. I've got really high standards. Have you seen my wife? Some of our colleagues have agreed with him, saying that his wife is really gorgeous, but I'm sure they are just humoring him. We were going through each other's videos on TikToks when another coworker commented to Max his wife resembled an anime character. She's slim, long black hair and Asian, and I joked that she's not that pretty. Max got offended and retorted that she didn't need fake eyelashes and fake hair to look passable and that he understood why I needed them. I got angry and told him to piss off. Since then, Max has not been speaking to me and makes passive-aggressive comments. Am I the a-hole?
You garbage gremlin.
That's an apt description for a poster.
So let's unpack this because we're dealing with an ROP, a 25-year-old female.
Correct.
Who it sounds like has a thing for Max. But Max be married.
For 10 years.
And she sounds very jealous. Now, I could be wrong. I could be reading this situation very wrong. But I don't think I am.
You're not.
Detective Timstradamus on the case again.
Oh, I love it.
So that's kind of how I feel about this. You're an a-hole because your jealousy ruined a friendship. These are coworkers. They're obviously not going to go out of the way, even if they don't believe that someone's other partner is attractive or not. They're not going to go out of their way to make that type of comment to you. What would that serve outside of what you just saw? It sounds like you have zero tact and you're learning a lesson here. It sounds like you lost a cool friend. Now, yes, she is 25 and it sounds like she has a little bit of growing up to do still. But I mean, the best thing I took away from this story was just the love that Max has for his wife.
Oh, yes. I love that.
Beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder. And I don't believe in my mind that anyone is as beautiful as Voyse. And that's how you're supposed to feel, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're an a-hole. Grow from the experience, though.
Well, the consensus? Overwhelmingly, you're the a-hole. In fact, our OP in the comment section claims she's not jealous. She already has a boyfriend. I can't imagine that somebody that does have a boyfriend and is apparently supposed to be happily in a relationship would have to feel competitive towards another man's wife. Now, additionally, let me go ahead and read one comment from our OP just to kind of give us a little understanding. It's annoying if you have to hear it all the time. He's dissing us female colleagues when he jokes that he's already got the best looking, so we can't compare.
Why would you even take it in that manner? He's just happy with what he has.
For me, it feels like she's got to be competitive.
If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all.
There you go. And that's our TED Talk.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story. It was a more clear-cut one.
Yeah.
But it made me laugh.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to go ahead and give a heartfelt thanks to all of our patrons for your support.
Yes, love every single one of y'all.
And we would love to hear your opinions on the stories in the comments section below. So, Timstradamus, what happens if someone posts?
Oh, I like what you did there. We might see it on the internet.
Fancy. I want to see Gourd of the Rings.
Gourd of the Rings? What is that?
Gourd, because of pumpkins.
You're so lame.
I am.